I did want to say, this is like pretty minor, but there's this guy, Christopher Waller. This guy is the current front runner, I believe, to be the next Jerome Powell. He actually is born like this with low pixel face. This is a real affliction. He has low pixel face. This is a high resolution photo of a low pixel man. Anyway, Christopher Waller is likely in the current running to be our next Fed chair. And this is because he is nonstop pandering to Trump by constantly saying how we need more rate cuts. You know, we got to cut rates. He just keeps saying we need to cut rates. And so that's why he's considered to be the perfect choice for this role, because he does what Trump wants. One thing he said kind of spooked me, though, today, which he said he is back on team transitory regarding inflation. Let's see if I can get this exact quote. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, he's pro-trans. Yeah, she's saying he's on team transitory because he's pro-trans rights. You guys figured it out. No, he said,
Don't worry about those prices. If there's any pass-through, there'll be some.
It is funny to have our next Fed chair be speaking at the Economic Club of Miami during a real estate meltdown, talking about how everything's great. We need rate cuts. Everything's great, and we need rate cuts.
Like that. Based on that, long-standing central bank wisdom is you just look through it. Just like if you increase the sales tax, that would raise the price of what everybody has to pay. But no one would say, oh, that's going to just cause inflation to go taking off. And I doubt very much that workers would go to their bosses.
This is him explaining why tariffs will raise prices, but not in like an inflationary way. It'll be a one-time thing, so we can still cut rates.
But it's weird with tariffs. That's immediately what people start saying. Oh, tariffs, prices will go up and it'll be more expensive. I got to ask for a raise. Well, you don't do it on the sales tax. You don't do it if your income tax goes up or any other taxes go up.
Isn't it crazy to have a guy telling regular working people that, yeah, your stuff's going to get more expensive, but you can't ask for a raise? Yeah, everything you buy is going to be more expensive, but because it's a one-time thing, it's like you're not going to ask for a raise. We're not going to have inflation based on that. Just look through it.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm back on team transitory.
So team transitory, that's a reference to the first mistake Jerome Powell made in 2021. We all remember 2021, NFTs, good times, and massive, massive crippling inflation, like 10% inflation, like really, really high inflation that caused a huge amount of distress and probably led to Joe Biden getting destroyed. I mean, his speech didn't help, but so anyway, they called it team transitory because at the time in 2021, Jerome Powell said, well, I think this inflation is going to be transitory, so we don't need to raise rates. So they were very, very slow to raising rates to fight that inflation, because by the time they realized it wasn't transitory and then the inflation was sticky and was continuing to be a problem, then they had to raise rates really fast and they were very late to it. And so now we are 4 years later and inflation still has never gotten back down to 2%. And we have a big price surge coming from tariffs. And he's like, I'm back on team transitory, as if like this is all going to go away. We haven't even, I find it all to be so insane. This guy really will not care if all of the prices of the things we buy go through the roof. Now, maybe he's doing it to get the job and he'll be more level-headed, but I'm kind of sick of that being my only theory. I'm kind of sick of that being my only theory, bro. I don't like to have to be like, oh, these guys are just crazy till they get the job. I thought Powell said something about tariffs being transitory too. Yeah, he did. I mentioned this. But Powell's not at least as hard of a rate cut advocate as this guy. Even Mr. Wonderful said in an interview today that rate cuts will lead to hyperinflation. Mr. Wonderful said that? That's out of character. Mr. Wonderful hyperinflation. Dude, Mr. Wonderful. I don't care what he said, bro. I can't find it, but his profile picture is him holding up two like $100,000 watches to cover his eyes. What a cartoon character. What a cartoon character, bro. O'Leary warns of hyperinflation if Trump sets interest rates. Okay, that's a little different. I mean, this is true. This is today. Yeah, just to be clear, this is not just if the Fed cuts. This is if Trump personally is setting interest rates. If the Fed is no longer independent and Donald Trump can just raise or lower them, at will, then it's real trouble. And I do agree. Yeah. I mean, that's not just, that's the Turkey example that I showed with Erdogan. But you could find that for many countries. Once the president or the leader, supreme leader, can control the central bank, hyperinflation is soon to follow. Like, they didn't make central banks independent for no reason. It's like a lesson learned from history. The reason you had to do it is because it's the only way to get the stability of the currency. You could probably get them on Lemonade Stand. Do we have some guests? We got some guests coming up for Lemonade Stand. We're kind of powering through on just us right now, but then we have a lot of guests. Yeah, I think a really good amount. We have some good guests, and I'm excited about all of them, to be honest. It's our first guest is a 3-part discussion between Mr. Beast, Xi Jinping, and the ghost of Joe Biden, who will have died by the time we record. But we'll come back for the... Plus Team Cherry will be there, but only talking about interest rates. It's going to be Team Cherry for an interest rate discussion, and it's going to be Xi Jinping for a Silk Song discussion, actually. So we get people out of their comfort zone. We mix things up. Aiden will not be attending any of the guests. Aiden will not be there. Mao, Lenin, Max debate to follow. I assume you meant Marx, but it's way more funny to think I got the ghost of Mao, Lenin, and my friend Max. The big 3, sort of to discuss just this dude named Max. Max Verstappen. Chairman Mao, Vladimir Lenin, and Max Verstappen are going to discuss economic theory. Black Boy Max. Hey, Trick, I rewatched Slower Than All. Suddenly, bid and back then NVIDIA was 6% of S&P 500, and now it's 8%. Don't try to get me to talk about NVIDIA early. If that's your game. I don't even care if you're complimenting a great video of mine. Don't try to lure me into the trap, okay? Speaking of that video, though, which I think is aged beautifully. That's all I'll say. I'm very proud of that video. I think it's aged beautifully. I think it will continue to age beautifully. I think that video, everything in it came true or will come true. And one part of that I wanted to discuss was this. So in that video, I talked specifically about how Florida and Texas are extremely risky for real estate. And this article was today. Florida's housing market was once red hot. Now it's one of the coldest in the country. And it just goes through all the declining sales, falling housing prices in Florida. This is like verbatim what I'm saying 6 months ago, 8 months ago. Lots of for sale signs around. Some of you live in Florida? Yeah, dude, I have heard. I was again reading Melody Wright, but yeah, I've heard that it's like there's the beginning of panic and then a little bit past that. It's like people are like, oh boy, it's not selling, huh? What if we drop the price just a little bit? Still not selling, huh? Oh boy, a lot of for sale signs on the street. What if we drop the price a little bit more? And it's just like, it's like the gully scene in Big Short. It's just like everyone's selling and no one's buying. I don't understand why the stock market has an opening time. Like with modern tech, why isn't it just open all the time? It's actually a good question. People your age, I'm assuming young, I'm assuming 20s, are asking this nonstop. And so a lot of the exchanges are trying to shift to a 24-hour model. They're trying to do it. Especially the non-NYSE, because they want to compete with the NYSE. And it's because crypto trades 24 hours and everyone's gotten used to it. The reason you wouldn't want to do it is because, first of all, the people who do this professionally have to sleep eventually. They have to be able to monitor the market and they have to be able to sleep. And secondly is nobody wants, how do I put this? Like if there's a set number of hours in the day, if this is the 24-hour cycle and you can only trade in this window, well, that makes this part very liquid. There's a lot of activity here. So you can always get a buy or a sell. Things are buying and selling. Everything is compressed. But if you get rid of these barriers, then you end up with a lot of periods where there's no buyers or sellers. Things aren't as liquid. And in fact, you may be able to have like abuses of this system. So let's say you wake up at 3 a.m. when there's no traders and you can dump a bunch of shares or something and drastically move the price because there's not a lot of liquidity. There's just a more chance of being able to do things, to be able to move the price with small amounts of stock. You really want to have a very liquid market so you're getting accurate prices. But People like you are demanding it, and it may happen, regardless of what I say or whether the benefits would be, because people want 24 hours, baby. Not even BlackRock is buying up the houses in Florida and Texas. I think people have a misconception about corporations buying housing, and they think that no matter what, it will work out for them. In fact, it can be very foolish on their end. First of all, they don't have a big of a percent as you think they do. But when they buy these houses, because they expect the price to go up, they expect to be able to, or the rental price to be able to go up. If they buy, a bunch of developments, they want to be able to raise the rent every year. But if they notice that no one's buying and, maybe rents are falling because no one can afford it, then in fact, they're losing money. They've lost a bunch of money and they're panicking. They have to unload and sell. Some of these corporations are unloading their stock of housing because they're scared, they're spooked. Yeah, just worth noting. At least in a place like Florida, man, I would hate to be a real estate guy.